Next Legacy Radio. I am Brandon here along with Sweet Aaron, and want to thank everybody for getting up this morning, this afternoon on the East Coast and worldwide. There's so many people out here, Aaron, that's huge fans of Jerry Matters, and not just a fan of his, just a fan of just his iconic stature of the role that he played as far as Theodore, Beaver, Cleaver on the iconic sitcom Leave It to Beaver. And I want to make sure before I actually introduce this young man and welcome him to the show. And I know you have something to say also, Aaron, but let me say this. To me, when it comes to Jerry Matters and his accomplishments, playing this role for as long as he has, and being able to, this is me, being a fan first, and putting this man in with the likes of characters such as the portrayal of Lucy and Lucille Ball, and you people out there know how I feel about her. I love her. She's one of the greatest actresses of all time. And Bob Denver, Gilligan, I mean, just different characters make you feel it certain ways. And when it comes to just the effort and the hard work that Jerry has put in, not just playing the character, but also doing a lot of different things outside of that too. I mean, he has to be commended. So before I put him on, I know you have something that you would like to say as well, right?
As a fan first, I am speechless. Like, I honestly can't believe that I'm going to, have a discussion with him. I've been a fan of the show ever since I can remember. I used to watch it and still do, faithfully. And it's been in syndication for over 50 years. That
absolutely
right there is just amazing. Oh my God.
And he is brought to you by JerryMatters.com. You can go ahead and check out the website for all things that is Jerry Matters. You can go on Facebook, which is Facebook.com/The Jerry Matters, and also Twitter.com/Jerry Matters. And it is an honor and a privilege to be able to have this young man on Next Legacy Radio. Mr. Matters, how you doing, sir?
I couldn't be better. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Great.
Wonderful.
Oh my God!
After that presentation about how good I am, I didn't realize I had done all those things, but I guess I have. But that was a very, very nice introduction. Thank you very much. Now I have to live up to it.
I appreciate it, but it not only is it well deserved, Jerry. I just feel when it comes, in what it's kind of. I'm at a point where it's just like when I think about the character that you have and the accomplishments that you have done with Leave It to Beaver, my first question I guess I should ask you, as a young child back then, did you feel like, you know what, I'm actually a part of something really, really special during that time?
I knew it was special because I've been working as an actor since I was 2 years old. So before I ever did Leave It to Beaver, I did 2 movies with Bob Hope. I worked with Alfred Hitchcock, Shirley MacLaine, and I did a lot of television shows. And when we were doing Leave It to Beaver, it was never the number one show, but we were always up against the number one show. I mean, like one year it was Maverick, and Maverick was a huge show, and it was on for an hour. So if people committed to Maverick, they didn't watch Leave It to Beaver. But it was just a really good experience. Everybody on the show was nice, and we just thought we were doing a nice little family situation comedy. All the things that happen on Leave It to Beaver, and that's what makes it unique, and I think that's why it stands the test of time so well, really did happen to kids. Now, I'm not saying that each episode was word for word, but the writers had 14 children between them, the main writers, Joe Conley and Bob Mosier, and all the other writers had kids. And so all those things, and it was usually a conglomerate of a lot of things that happened to a lot of kids, but they really did happen to real children. And I think that things that really happened, instead of, like a lot of the shows today where they're basically joke-orientated, these are real-life situations, and things that happened back then are still happening now because they're real.
And I think that makes it relatable, and for a lot of us. Of course, I'm slightly younger than you, so it during when it was live and before. I was fortunate enough to still. Go ahead.
It was never live. It's on film. That was the first run, but it wasn't like that. Those were all on a film. In fact, it was filmed just like a movie. It was on 35 millimeter film. And that's why there's no outtakes. People always say, did you never make a mistake? No, but the film was so expensive because it was coated in silver that anything they didn't print, any funny mistakes we did or anything that happened odd on the set was taken out that night. It wasn't printed, and the film was stripped to get the silver on to put it on the not next day's probably, but a week's later's film. So
amazing. Amazing. And
so we look like we did it right every time.
And during that run, and I've always felt that your portrayal of that character as Theodore Cleaver is relatable, and you mentioned it still to this day because it was real life situations, real things that I feel like. I mean, I think Jerry, that as a kid, I think all of us had a little Beaver Cleaver in us, in a sense where we may have been coerced, or there were some things that we did but wasn't supposed to do, or maybe there were some things that we did do that as a child you can remember and you can relate to. And I think that's why not just your character but Leave It to Beaver in general is just always going to withstand the test of time.
And I think it will, as I say, because they're real things. All those things actually happened. It just wasn't people going in and saying, what's funny this week? Is there something, whatever, and writing something. And the writers had all these kids, so they knew how kids thought. A lot of them actually happened to them, the writers in the 20s and 30s, because those things are kind of timeless. People, going to the movies, doing this, doing that, not, all the things that Beaver did, kids are still doing today, but they did them way before Leave It to Beaver also.
Right.
Right. I'm wondering, you said that you've been acting since you were 2. At 2 years old, how would you remember your lines, and how, what would you do? Were there tricks or anything? How would you remember?
There were no tricks. My mom and my father were not movie people. They had nothing to do with show business. My dad retired as a superintendent at LA City Schools, but he came under the GI Bill because he was a pilot during World War II to USC. My dad was from Iowa. I was actually born in Iowa, and my mom was from Minnesota, but they came when I was about 6 months old to Los Angeles, so my dad could complete his education and go into the school system. And my mom was walking through a department store when I was 2 years old, or a little before that, and of course, they didn't have a whole lot of money, and she was looking for things, and a woman came up to her and said, "Is this your little boy?" And my mom was kind of going, "Yes, has he done something wrong?" And the lady goes, "No." We just noticed that he seems to be very attentive, and he fits our clothes perfectly. Could he be a model? And my mom kind of went, well, she figured it was the big city, and this was some kind of a hoax or something that was going to get her. And she said, I just don't know. And the lady said, well, it'd be very easy. You just have to walk up and down a runway with a model, and, we could pay him, and he could keep the clothes that he wore. And my mom said, well, he could do that then. So that's actually how I started. But just as you were relating, there weren't many children in Los Angeles that worked the live stage. Now, in New York, and television was just starting. So in New York, they could go to Broadway and get children that worked on the live stage all the time. But in Hollywood, there weren't anybody. So what happened was they looked around, and the models, when I started modeling, you'd walk out on a runway. You really wouldn't talk, but you'd walk back. So I started working all the early 1950s shows. In fact, the very first thing I did on television was the Ed Wynn Show, and I had on a 10-gallon cowboy hat, 6 guns, cowboy boots, and diapers, and I'd walk into a barroom scene with all these stuntmen fighting and breaking chairs over each other, and I'd walk up to the bar. One of them would pick me up, set me on the bar, and I'd pound on the bar with my fist, and I'd say, I'm the toughest hombre in these parts, and you better have my brand, and then Ed Wynn would go into a commercial for Pet Milk. Well, once I did that, as I say, there weren't a lot of children doing those things. They said, if he can do that, I worked all the time. So before I did Leave It to Beaver, I worked all the time. And Alfred Hitchcock saw me doing, I think it was Lux Video Theater, because the commercials were live. And he hired me then for Trouble with Harry. I did 2 movies with Bob Hope. I did a whole lot of other things before Leave It to Beaver. Leave It to Beaver, though, is so classic that that's what everybody remembers me for.
Absolutely.
And people just think I walked in and walked onto the set of Leave It to Beaver and started. I'd been working a long, long time even before I started Leave It to Beaver.
There's a lot of work, and there's a lot of work, real quick, Aaron, and Jerry Matters is our guest on Next Legacy Radio, and there's a lot of work, like you said, that you've done before Leave It to Beaver, and one of my things as far as when it comes to child actors, I've always felt that there was, not just a lot of work. I mean, there could be a lot of distractions because of adolescence. You're growing up. You're doing a lot of different things. You probably want to play as opposed to work in some cases or whatever. How was that when you were actually not just taking your first job, but also on the set of Leave It to Beaver working with other kids as well?
Well, it was much more on Leave It to Beaver, of course, because that went on for 6 years, and we filmed for 39 weeks a year. We'd then go to New York for 2 weeks to do PR with all the newspapers and advertising people, and we'd also go to Chicago and meet the newspaper people and also the advertisers. We'd come back to Los Angeles and take just a few weeks off, and I don't even think it was a month, and start up with the next season because we were doing 39 a year with the holidays and everything. Well, it would take us almost a year to do the 39 shows. So, it was a very rigorous schedule, but it wasn't that much more rigorous than kids going to school every day. I worked from basically 8 to 5 most days, and it was very, very strict. You have a private tutor, so I got one of the best educations. It was basically the educations of the kings and queens of Europe. I had a teacher from the LA Unified School District that was probably one of the best teachers. My dad was in that district by that time, so he'd pick special teachers for both Tony and I. Tony Dow, who played Wally, is now an award-winning artist and sculptor, but he learned a lot of his art because all of his teachers had a doctorate in art. Since I was in elementary school, it wasn't that important. He just got good teachers. But, it was a great education. I'm a graduate of Berkeley. I have a degree in philosophy from Berkeley, so it really started me off on the right path.
Wow. Amazing.
Does it bother you that, that people, actually think that you're Beaver Cleaver?
It doesn't really bother me. I don't think people really, a lot of people think that a lot of those things really did happen just to me, because it's so different than today when people go in and write jokes. So, no, most of those things I never did, but some little boy, or it could even have been a little girl, someplace in the United States really did all the things. And, of course, they were, enhanced, and several different episodes or incidents were put together to make it into a television show. But they're all from real life. And as I say, things that happen then happen now. Kids are always the same. They're always going to get in trouble. There's always, an Eddie Haskell. Everybody, it's become a euphemism for a certain type of person. And everybody knows that person. And everybody knows a Larry Mondello who's always eating an apple. And, so the characters are timeless, and that's not only is it in this country, Leave It to Beaver runs in 54 languages all over the world, and in a lot of places in Europe and Africa and the Far East, they'd never really seen a lot of television except for violence. They saw westerns and, Untouchables, and suddenly Leave It to Beaver came in, and it gave the rest of the world a different view of the United States.
Jerry, as a child, Jerry, did you feel? I mean, I know you're working with a lot of other children on the set, and I know there can be a lot of different times where we just have to focus on work. Was there a lot of playtime during those different breaks? I guess you can say.
Well, there was and there wasn't. I'll tell you why. Because I had to go to school. So I had a private tutor, as I say, it was a great education. When other kids came on the show, like Larry Mondello, his name is Rusty Stevens, or people that were more regular, they would go to school with me. But a lot of the other kids, they'd have a separate teacher for. So it was a lot of fun. But as I say, it's the best education you can get because you've got basically the best teacher in the or one of the best teachers in the LA Unified School District, and she's one-on-one with you. And if you're a little behind, I was never real good at spelling. So we'd spend a lot more time on spelling than math, which I was very, very good at. And so I could pass beyond my grade in, 1 year, and we'd be using books from the next year, year for what I was learning. So, as I say, it was a wonderful education and something I would have never been able to have had I not been on Leave It to Beaver. And it just luckily coincided with just about a little bit of first grade, and I'd been doing a movie before that, so I'd had a private tutor, and it went all the way to high school. So I was never in elementary school in anywhere but with a private tutor.
Wow. When you were on your breaks and not working, and you were just a regular guy, and back before there was TMZ and all that, could you actually go out in public and be left alone as a child, or no?
Yeah, pretty much. I'll tell you why. People usually don't really look at kids, especially adults. And Leave It to Beaver was thought of as an adult show when it was on. Now it's become much more popular with kids because as soon as it went off the air, it went into reruns after school. But when it was on first run, it was on like on a Thursday night at 8:30. Well, in those years, kids went to bed at 7:30, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So some got to watch it, but it was considered an adult show, and it was meant and written as a child's eye view of the world, which adults could watch and maybe relive their youth. When we went back and then started it in reruns after the 6 years, and there's 234 episodes, so with the holidays and things, they can put on an episode every day. It started running all over the country, both before school and after school, and that's when it really gained the popularity. I mean, Maverick was always the number one show, or one of the shows that we were always put up against, and it was always the number one. We were like 3 or 4, so we weren't the number one show. When we went into reruns, suddenly we were.
Right.
Amazing. What are some of your moments as I know you have so many of them throughout the seasons of Leave It to Beaver. What are some of the most maybe one or two that stands out as far as either all-time funniest, just some of the best takes you can make or have as far as during that span, as far as some memorable moments?
Well, a lot of it was all the fun I got to have. Because I was there, I basically, and you can't make a child work, so I had pretty much, about 85 adult, grips, cameramen. All these guys were like, in some ways, surrogate fathers or, surrogate teachers. And so to keep me happy so that I wouldn't get bored and not want to work, we built model boats. We did all sorts of things. I had the carpentry department, in some ways at my disposal. And I used to build sailboats, and they would, paint them and cut me custom wood that were in certain shapes so I could build things. So there was a lot done that was very, very special that I, at the time, didn't really appreciate. But it was, pretty much just so that I would say, I want to go back to work because I want to see how my little boat is coming. And, I can say lines, and I was very good at it. So, and I liked the people there. And so it was very, very much of a very pleasant and fun experience for me. And I loved going there every day.
Before I actually start talking about a couple of different things you're actually currently doing now, I have to make sure I take mention of there's someone by the name of Gary Richard Collins. He's from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he wanted to just, let everybody know as far as just your thoughts as far as how well Barbara Billingsley not just portrayed and played your mom on the set, just everything that she embodied as far as an actress and a person. Like I know he's a big fan of hers, so I just wanted you to kind of talk about just your relationship with Barbara during the season and after.
Well, she remained until her passing, a lifelong friend. When I was actually doing Leave It to Beaver, I think the best analogy I could have for people that, have never worked on a set is that she was like your very favorite teacher that you had in elementary school. Both Hugh Beaumont and her were like that. They were people that I got to work with, and they were, and it was like I'd go home, I'd memorize my lines, I'd come in and say them with her. She might tell me, if you said this a little differently, and Hugh Beaumont might do that, or the director. But they were just really fun people that I got to relate to and basically, do things with. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the shows on Leave It to Beaver were like play for me. I mean, there were some that I had to memorize a lot of lines, but, we got to drive go-karts. I got to climb up on a billboard. There were just all sorts of things that were a lot of fun, and everybody made it fun because you can't make a kid work. So as long as, I was having fun, I wanted to go to work every day.
Right, right. I would like you to talk about how Leave It to Beaver was the first sitcom to ever show the inside of a bathroom.
Well, that was our very, very first show, and under the Hayes Act, which was done because of a lot of the skimpy suits on the Tarzan movies for Jane, they had all these different rules. A man and a woman, even if they were married, could not even sleep in double beds or be in the beds when they talked. So there were a lot of weird rules. So it was, it was an entirely different time with a different set of rules. The very first show we did, Wally and the Beaver won a pet. And so they, in those years, you could look in comic books, and in the front or the back page, you could send away for an alligator. And Wally and the Beaver really want a dog, but the dad and mom say, no, like parents always do, you're not responsible enough to have a dog, so we're going to send away for an alligator and raise it so we can show that we can't take care of a pet. Well, when it comes, we read the instructions, and it says they have to have water. So we're thinking, where can we put it? Oh, yes, we'll put it in the toilet bowl. And we just won't have it because we had unlike most people in the United States, the Cleaver boys had a bathroom off of their bedroom. And when we submitted that script, I didn't. I mean, the producers did. The censors said, absolutely not. You can't show a bathroom on television. And so that show wasn't shown for about 6 weeks while they went back and forth and negotiated. And we went back and refilmed it and put the alligator in the toilet tank. And if you see that show, you'll notice it never goes below like maybe 3 inches below the tank. And you see the alligator swimming in it, but you never see the rest of the toilet or the bathroom. And that's Leave It to Beaver was the first show to ever in American television history have a bathroom.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
One memory, too, that I'd like to share with you. I never thought this would happen, but you guys gave me the idea, and this is, it is what it is, but I never thought of just wetting a towel to make my parents thought I took a bath.
Yep, that's absolutely. But as I say, all those things, and the reason you did it and we did it on Leave It to Beaver was because one of the writers, it wasn't me, I'll tell you that, but one of the writers' kids or one of the people on the set came and told them about something their kid did, and they would then write it into the script. So it wasn't that these guys, they were very, very good. They were the top writers and producers in Hollywood. Yes. But they were smart enough to know that they couldn't write funny things that kids do because kids really did funnier things than they could ever write. So that is, something that they picked up from people coming and saying, my kids, they were wetting the towels. They went, I'll put that in the script.
And it's amazing. And before I take, I'm actually going to take a call from Pam Rogers from the 585 area code. She wanted to say something to you. Jerry Matters is our guest on Next Legacy Radio. And before I put her on, I have to, since you shared something, I have to share something as well. So, Jerry, one of the things that I to this day still has me just laugh, not just laugh, but laugh till my stomach hurts was just the one episode that you and Tony Dow, Wally, decided to just go ahead, since you lost your haircut money, decided you just wanted to go ahead and do it yourself. That, to me, was all-time classic.
How many kids have tried to cut their own hair and they find out once you take one chunk out of it, you're done because you can never get it to look like a barber. But,
And Jerry, your question to Tony at the time was, okay, Wally, should I stop? And Tony was, and Wally at the time went, oh, well, you know what? I think I better stop now. Like that to me was classic, all-time classic. Loved it.
Just so you know, everything on Leave It to Beaver comes from real life. So some kid, of course, did that, and and they would write a whole lot of different things that kids did into every episode. But every episode in its core or seed came from real life. It just wasn't people going in and writing jokes, and that's why it's still on today.
And relatable. I love it.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and put in. Let's go ahead and take Pam. Pam, you are on Next Legacy Radio with Jerry Matters. How you doing?
Hi, how are you doing? Hi, Jerry. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. What about yourself?
Good. I'm nervous. I'm such a thrill to talk to you. I have loved Leave It to Beaver for years. I grew up watching it, and then I had my sons watch it, and they love the show. I want to ask you if you had a favorite episode.
You know, I really don't, because I could tell you so many of them, but every one, when I watch them, you know, there's different people that you can see, but there's also different crew members or, you know, people that I haven't seen in years and years. And so every scene reminds me of something. So, you know, it's very, very interesting for me to watch it, but I'm at a totally different perspective than anybody else. And honestly, I don't watch it that much because I know it, and you know, in some ways I say to myself, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch another one. I can spend days and days watching them if I start.
I also have another quick question. Is there anything that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
You know, my life is really complete, and I would never say I've done everything that I want to, because every time I turn around, a new opportunity springs up, and I take it on, and it's challenging. And you know, I like acting. I like being. I have diabetes, so I go all around the country and speak about diabetes, and I feel that's kind of a way of giving back. I know a lot of people have spent a lot of time watching me on TV, and a lot of people, you know, don't know that much about diabetes. So I figure that's a way of me kind of giving back.
I have it also. Do you have type 1 or type 2? I have type 2.
I am a type 2 diabetic. I will tell you honest to get the truth. I've been on insulin. I've been on oral medication. I was very, very overweight, which is one of the things that you know, for some people makes them type 2 diabetics. I lost a lot of weight. I lost about 45 pounds. I am now pre-diabetic. So, you know, there is, and life is so good that if you have to go on insulin or oral medication, you know, it's worth it. But I am lucky enough that I caught mine quick enough that I'm now pre-diabetic. But as I say, I used to have to inject myself 3 and 4 times a day.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I take metformin. I only have to take it twice a day, so I'm pretty lucky. I can control it.
I was on the same thing.
But my problem is I've been having trouble losing weight because I'm on thyroid medicine, and I've been on that since I was like second grade. I can get skinny one time and then heavy another time, so it's really hard for me.
Yeah, it's a constant battle, but, you know, as I say, life is good, and it's definitely worth it. But it is something that you have to watch every day, every meal. You have to think about when you're going to have it, when's the last meal you have, what did you have. So it's a very complicated disease, but, you know, as I say, you sound like you're tackling it in a good way, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Not a problem.
No problem.
Pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Jerry Matters is our guest on Next Legacy Radio, and I definitely have to ask you this, because you have a benefit concert on June 29th that is very, very, I feel like it's the more we talk about certain things in support of our military and veterans, the better off I think we will be. So talk to the listeners about what you're doing on Sunday, June 29th.
Well, it's a benefit for, of course, all veterans, but in reality, a lot of them are the returning vets. But my dad was a World War II pilot. He flew 25 missions over Germany. My son was in the Navy. I was in the Air Force. I spent 6 years in the Air Force and Air National Guard. So, you know, I am very, very connected to the veterans community. And, you know, when we send these guys over there and they're in perfect shape and they come back and they've been hurt very badly, it's our responsibility, you know, to help them. And, you know, the government can do so much, but the government isn't in there on a one-to-one basis. So This is about getting people to meet your vets, and, you know, that it's a concert to raise money so that things that maybe they couldn't have, or, you know, different things that they need because they've sacrificed for us, that we sacrifice for them.
Yep, completely agree. If you're unable to attend on June 29th at the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills, you can make a donation. You can go to www.indiegogo.com, and also more information, you can go to facebook.com/The Jerry Matters right here on Next Legacy Radio. And one question, and to me, I think your opinion will hold a lot of weight because you've been in this business for a long time, and you've seen a lot and you know, throughout your career. So when it comes to just the evolution of television and entertainment, like, are we in good shape? Are you worried? Is there certain things that you see that you either don't want to see, or you would more than likely just, you know, hopefully there is a corner to turn as far as just the creativity of it?
Well, you know, I'll be very honest with you. I'm not the person to ask, and I'll tell you why. I watch very, very little television. I watch a lot of the news programs. I handle my own finances, so I will watch a lot of the financial networks. I don't have any destination television. If I'm turning around, I may watch something. But I just find that, as I say, the type of comedy that is now pervasive isn't something that in a lot of ways I find that funny. So it's just me. I know that everybody else must like it because it wouldn't be on. But for my personal taste, I can find more interesting things to do than watch a lot of the shows that are on today.
Well, Jerry, I'm with you because we may be in the minority, but to me, I always feel like more is less. You know how people say less is more. More is less, where we have too many channels, we have too many different things going on, too many distractions, I guess you can say. And I'm not gonna lie, Jerry. I would love it if we can just narrow it down. I know it's never gonna happen. It's too much money out there with entertainment. But if we can narrow it down to how it used to be with maybe 4, 5, 6 channels, I'm okay with that. Personally.
Well, I find that the more channels are in some ways better because at least you can still find Leave It to Beaver and shows,
Very
that
true.
people
Good point.
really like. So you can go to the internet and find some great movies, TV that you can watch, and they don't charge you for it. I mean, you have to pay for your internet connection. But so that to me is something that there is a lot of good shows out there. It's just that the things that they're now pushing, I don't know how many of those shows will be on in 50 years and still be relevant, like Leave It to Beaver. So, my time is very, very valuable. I'm now 66 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, I better do just what I want to do because, time is limited. So I find that I can make myself very happy by either reading or doing a lot of other things besides watching people be silly on TV.
There you go.
Okay.
Aaron, what other question do you have for Jerry before we let him go right here on Next Legacy Radio?
Well, I'm wondering, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I was just wondering, when you speak, do your seminars, is there a place that we can go to find out where you're going to be? And if you could you tell me when you're coming to South Florida?
It really depends because what I usually do, it's usually at conferences or things like that where I can have enough people to speak to that it makes it, relevant for me to be able to go to Florida. So I have spoken in Florida before, but like every state, it's a big state, so I don't even know if I was in the city by you. But, what I tell people is that, a lot of it is not type 1, but type 2 is affected by your weight. So if you lose weight, it's possible that, you can have a much better outcome. And if you're type 1, you can have a lot better outcome. But it's a very, very strict regimen. There are things you have to do every day. And if you become lax in that, you are going to have very, very bad consequences. Most type 1 diabetics understand that. But it's like anything else, It's something you have to do all the time. After a while, you say, well, maybe I'll, become a little more lax. And you can't do that with diabetes. You have to fight it at the wall every day. You have to get there and beat it back down.
I do want to commend you, though, because I have to say this. I want to commend you because one of my biggest things that I hear, type 2 diabetics say, they don't take care of themselves, and then, they end up on insulin.
What they end up doing is losing, their toes and then their legs because it's a very heinous disease, and the things that it does to your body, if you don't take care of it. But it's like a lot of other things. When they first tell you and you feel fine, you don't think about it. But when you start going down the road, if you don't take care of it, so that's what I tell people. If you go to a doctor and he says you're pre-diabetic even, you need to start taking care of it then, because by the time you're full-blown diabetic,
and that's
it's harder.
why I commend you. That's why I commend you, because people don't realize that with type 1, like my pancreas was dead when I was 11. I've had diabetes for 26 years now. So, I didn't have a chance to do, my diet to not be diabetic anymore.
Absolutely. Yes.
And type 2s tend to, they don't realize that they have the chance if they grab it like you did. And that's why I want to commend you, because lots of people don't realize that.
Well, thank you, but I just don't think they realize the consequences, because somebody says you have type 2 diabetes, and it's not like, they say that this is going to happen right away. They say you should start taking care of it. Your blood sugars are a little high. People go, oh, I feel fine. And by the time they realize that they're not fine because their blood sugars are out of control and they're having real problems, it's sometimes a little late. So that's why I warn people that if your doctor says you're even pre-diabetic, ask him what you can do. And as I say, a lot of it, in many, many cases, are that you're just too overweight and your body can't make enough insulin for all of the blood cells that you have.
Right. Well, and I also want to say thank you so much for yours and your family's military service for our country.
Absolutely.
Well, you know
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, it was hard work, but it was well worth it to support a country like this. When you look around the world and see what's going on, and you see what a wonderful country we have, then you don't mind it at all.
Right.
And in closing, Jerry, you haven't met us until today or this morning, but let me thank you for the decades of memories that you've given us, not just by your portrayal of Beaver on Leave It to Beaver, but also we had a glimpse into what it was like to be able to not just work hard and play and, like you said, have those fun moments, but to have and take pictures of a childhood moment that we've had that was relatable to what you portrayed and what you went through as a child as well. So in a lot of ways, we're all brothers and sisters, and it takes certain songs.
I grew up in your living room.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
And see, you know it's serious when Jerry just finished what I was actually about to say too, because I was literally getting ready to say that too. Now that's serious. That is real serious.
It's real serious because I don't have any brothers, so yes, you are my brother.
Well, that's even
I've got
better.
nothing but sisters over here.
Well, you should talk to my real sister. She'd probably tell you don't want one.
If you want to, Jerry Matters is on social media, people. So if you definitely want to make sure you keep tabs on Jerry, make sure you go to twitter.com/TheJerryMatters. You can also go to facebook.com/TheJerryMatters as well. And JerryMatters.com is the website. And continue to not just continue the legacy. To me, I feel like it's a golden age legacy where a lot of the tradition as far as how to do it was done when Jerry did it. So continue to follow that legacy and also continue to support our military and veterans. And if you're not around June 29th, you can go to Indiegogo.com to be able to make a donation, and it's important. And Jerry, it's a blessing. We have to do it again.
Yes,
Sounds
absolutely.
good to me anytime, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. That is a television icon, people, Jerry Matters, and we'll be back to discuss the interview right here on Next Legacy Radio.
Next Legacy